Anybody else? No? He doesn't want to. It's fine. Okay, go ahead.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Mohammed and I'm part of HFS, a team of Israelis here providing a pitch today.
Hello everyone, my name is Boleslav. I recently moved to Dubai. I'm here to meet new people. I don't really work anywhere at the moment, but happy to see everyone.
Hello, my name is Sam. I'm a founder of my own company right now. It's in AI recruitment. It's a software based on AI agents. And I'm currently in Dubai for a month, just to network as well and kind of explore. And yeah, I'm living in Belgium. So.
I am Frederick. I worked like 3 decades in sales, marketing, and I'm the author of that book, Raise Your Sales Game. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Payam. Just came here to make friends and expand my network in Dubai. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Tava. We develop softwares in financing and very glad to meet you.
Hi, I'm Roland. I'm from a startup studio called Highbridge in New York. I'm here just to try and get to know the Dubai startup scene.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mahmoud, and I'm the co-founder of Newlink. We're an all-in-one platform for pharmacies. From Sudan, born and raised over here in Dubai. And I did solar, but I'm currently doing it.
Hi, everybody. Mitesh Desani. I'm the founder of Desani Advisory, and I am a fractional CFO that helps founders go through the growth journey and exit.
Hi everyone, my name is Aleksei Dolgikh. I'm a serial entrepreneur and business angel. I sold my first company to Russian Google. I'm on the list of top 100 Russian-speaking tech founders in the world. And I'm here to make new connections. Also, I like car racing, skydiving, and I do running.
Hi everyone, my name is Sandra. I live in France. I came here to meet people here in Dubai, and I'm a software engineer, and I'm planning to move here to Dubai.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz. I'm from Australia. I'm a founder of a company called Scorty. It's a free service management platform for facilities management. And yeah, I'm just checking out Dubai and how the startup scene is before I can make a decision to move it.
Hello everyone, I am Bilal. I am here with the West. We both are networking, meeting people for Squadly, getting to know people. I'm a software developer.
What's your start?
I'm a Salesforce developer.
Okay, and you?
I'm a JavaScript.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Anybody here for the first time? Come on, we got a few more minutes for the first time introductions. First timers, anyone? Come on out, come on. Just come out. Come on, your first time. Come on. Anybody more? First timers? No? You don't want to? Hiding in the back? No? Okay.
Hi, my name is Salman Qureshi. I'm from India, and I'm trying to make connections over here in Dubai.
Hi everyone, good night. My name is Esteban Maya. I'm from Colombia. I'm founder engineer of the Fast API. I don't know how many developers are here, but I'm founder engineer of Fast API. We are backed by Sequoia Capital right now. I'm fellow member of the Python Foundation, so I'm part of the board of the Python Foundation. I have been here like 2 times talking in the United, invited by them to be from the Rotterdam. So I'm just coming time to time because I'm seeking maybe opportunities, just trying to help the entrepreneurs here and just maybe seeing opportunities or what are doing the entrepreneurs in the ecosystem. So glad to tell you guys. That's it.
Hi everyone, my name is Jay Bhatt and I'm the founder of Airship. We are a tech company focused on building applications in digital banking, wealth management, lending, payments, KYC. We have a framework of reusable components that lets us to build fintech use cases faster. I've been coming here to Dubai for the past 5 years. Looking forward to getting with a lot of startup ecosystem players. Happy to work in non-fintech areas as well, in whichever ways that I can add value to your business growth.
Assalamu alaikum. This is an introduction, this is a reintroduction. This is my fourth time here. My name is Wahid Aziz. I'm the CEO of an internet company called TGIF.ae. And initially when I came here, I was a bit skeptical about, Jamil and what this was about. Before COVID, I did that a lot. Before COVID, there was these startup events. It was very, very cool, and I couldn't believe that someone could actually do a 2.0 version of a startup community. And seriously, my fourth time, let's cool people, Team Global, Team Retribro. And I just want to say, look, from myself to give back to the community, we do domain names, web hosting, email hosting, cloud services. If any of these three guys I mentioned say we should give you a deal, we're happy to help you guys out to give back to the community. Thank you.
Anybody would like to introduce themselves? Anyone? Okay. So, as you know, this is not a for-profit project. This is a meetup. We meet up, so we exchange networks, experiences, help each other out. The most interesting thing is how this has become a pool for investors to come and find startups, how other entrepreneurs are sharing their expertise, how talent comes here as well to find opportunity, and how companies come here to find talent, which is opportunity to them. It's also interesting how journalism is being born here as well. Tech journalism for the first time in the region. And you can see how many cameras, like people come, some people with their laptops writing articles. And this, I think, is something that we have missed for a very long time in the region. So thank you all for keeping this alive. This is one meetup, one chapter. That is the first one, but we already have now approximately 1 million members globally, with everything from US to Asia. This is amazing because if people come together, we can actually do a lot of change and a lot of interesting things. There are tons of brilliant people here. Some have great ideas, some have great ideas but no market. Some pivoting, some merging, some collaborating. And this is a space where we can be honest with each other. And that is the most important thing. Today's agenda, very directly, we have Mr. Malachi. Did I say that correct?
Malachi, yeah.
Malachi, sorry. And then Mr. Halliday, correct? Okay, at least the last name. So he's gonna tell us about what they do and his passion. I've met you a couple of years ago, and interesting person, great vision. And after that, we have Mashfique, also somebody who is one of the first entrepreneurs of the Dubai ecosystem. And Mashfique has just exited his company that never got any venture investment, by the way, ever. And it was a very difficult journey, honestly, and I hope he's going to talk about it with as much detail he's comfortable with, but a grueling journey. Mashfique is from Bangladesh. He was born in Dubai and grew up here. He started drivearabia.com. Who knows Drive Arabia? Anyone? The best website if you want to buy a car, unbiased reviews, done by experts. And they just got acquired by Dubizzle. And honestly, I'm so happy. I am. I swear, it's like I got an exit. You have no idea how happy I am, because Mashfique is a great person, really. And they've done amazing with their website, and he invested most of the money into startups, by the way. Mashfique is an amazing angel investor as well. He's not here, right? Okay, good, because it's better if I don't say this in front of him. He is the best, one of the best entrepreneurs I've met that were actually kind of created in the ecosystem, if you know what I mean. What's beautiful about this ecosystem is that we have a lot of movement back and forth between different geographies. It's a true melting pot.
which actually makes it a proper ecosystem. That's one of the best features of a growing ecosystem. Why Silicon Valley is amazing? Look, who are the people in Silicon Valley? Are they natives of the area? No, they're all immigrants. They're all people who come together. So after that we have a debate with Adam. Let's see, he said. Adam is not feeling confrontational today. So after that, we usually do the end of the evening, we do a networking session, and we basically go, it's unofficial, we go somewhere. We're waiting for Mustafa. Is Mustafa here? No. Mustafa will tell us where is it. He's head of entertainment, Mustafa. He decides which place we hang out after the meeting. So Mustafa from Granville, if you know him. So he's gonna let us know, right? You'll tell everyone?
Yeah, I will send it to the group.
Without further ado.
Hey everyone, pleasure to be here. Welcome to the community, and it's great to be a part of it. If we can just start with a show of hands, everyone here tonight, who is a founder? Okay, just to mix it up, who is not a founder? Okay, most of us here, we've started our own business. And one of the things that we face as a real struggle as founders is this narrative that's pushed on us, that we need to be successful by getting VC funding. And for a lot of startups, that's simply not the case. Can I see a quick show of hands of everyone in the room who here today has successfully closed a round of venture capital funds into their business? Okay, so we have quite a few. Can I please, gentlemen in the back here, how long did it take you to close your first round of VC funding?
From point of kickoff?
From the point of kickoff, where you were first thinking, yeah, you know what, I want VC money, getting ready, getting the documents, having all the meetings, how long did it take?
3 months, but it was done on a rolling close. You didn't have to get everybody across the finish line because it was a safe note, so it worked out.
Okay, first, congratulations, first of all. 3 months is exceptionally quick. I saw a hand over here as well. Gentleman in the back here. How long did it take you?
Like 12 months.
12 months, yeah. That's also really quick as well. Venture capital is not a fit for most startups, and those that it is a fit for, it takes a huge amount of time and commitment. Those of us who aren't founders of startups, but more traditional MSMEs, we sometimes look for bank funding. Can I get a show of hands? Who in the room has got bank funding in Dubai from one of the banks here? I know, it's not surprising. Okay, so VC is hard. Banks in the UAE, they are harder. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today is money. We're talking about cash. Where do we find cash when we can't get VC? Congratulations to those that have. And we can't get bank funding because evidently it's just as hard in this market. So one of the things we do, I'm Malachi, I'm founder of Halliday Corporate Services. We're funding micro-enterprise and B2B businesses. We're funding businesses that aren't VCable, can't get support from the banks, which is most companies. But one of the things we do with every company is we say, look, before you take money from anywhere, as founders, we're solutions focused, look within your business, don't pay anyone else, look within your business to find the cash that's available. And for most post-revenue startups, the cash is already there for you to take advantage of. So we're going to talk about the cash conversion cycle. It's a 2-hour presentation. We've got about 20 minutes, so I'm going to jump through a few things. But there's 2 elements to your cash conversion cycle. Does anyone know what a cash conversion cycle is? Okay, in very simple terms, when you have a business, you have a product cycle and a sales cycle, from the first moment that you have to invest into selling that product, from the first moment, you've got your sales cycle, then you have to invest into inventory, the delivery of the good or service, you've got invoicing, then you've got the collection period. All of this is called your cash conversion cycle of when you first put money in to after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, when you get that money back. So what we're going to do in this presentation is we're just going to focus mainly on timing. And in timing, there's one thing, this is the only text-heavy slide, I promise. So this digs into the cash conversion cycle for your business. Now, I don't know the stats for B2C businesses in the UAE, but for B2B businesses, the collections process, on average, at the start of this year, took 3 months. That means, well, actually, sorry, it took 100 days, over 3 months, the year before it was 3 months. That means, after you've done the job, you still have to wait over 3 months to get the cash from that same job. Now, what's the implication of that for your business? Firstly, let's look at if you had a 3-month cash conversion cycle. What does that mean for your business? Well, as a founder, when we start our business, we're either starting with our savings from our previous job, or maybe we've got friends and family to put some money in, or maybe it's after the first year and we've got some profit saved up. Let's say we've got 70,000 euros, or $70,000, let's be ambitious. So we've got $70,000, and let's say that we make 30%. So we'll be selling things for 100. So let's say it's a 3-month cash conversion cycle. 1 month to do the job, whether you're selling a good or a service. And let's say you invoice the clients and you get paid 2 months later. So you have a 3-month cash conversion cycle, which would be very quick. It's something to aim for. If we can just jump to the next place. So if we can, so if we focus on shifting the standard cash conversion cycle, if we have $70,000, we're being ambitious, to cycle, that means once we've invested that in our goods or services, we have to wait 3 months before we can start the next job, 3 months before we can make the next profit. Not necessarily 3 months before pitching to new clients, but our growth is constricted. So a lot of companies, when they're looking for angel investment, when they're looking for bank finance, etc., they're looking for cash to cover their cost of goods sales, cost of goods sold, cover their inventory, cover whatever it is, then for them to do the job. So if you have a 3-month cash conversion cycle, that means you have to wait till the money comes back, so then you can only do 4 jobs in a year. So if you're making 100 and it costs 70, and you've got 30 profit, we can see very quickly 2 different examples of if you can shorten your cash conversion cycle. This is going to be the key throughout the presentation. If you can shorten your cash conversion cycle, you can get significantly more revenue. There'll be more costs. In this example, does anyone see what's wrong with this example, with the math? If we have a 1-month cash conversion cycle, so we times the revenue by 3, because we've got 3 times as much revenue. The costs, does anyone see what's wrong with the costs? We've just added additional costs. It's not 3 times the original costs. We've just added in costs in the assumption for shortening the cash conversion cycle. Whether you're offering discounts to get paid earlier, or taking shortcuts in the delivery process. I'll dig into that. But the idea of shortening your cash conversion cycle is you can effectively double the profit of your business by the end of the year. Not through increasing pricing, not through anything other than having a more efficient cash conversion cycle. That's nice, but that's not where the real break is. So, for businesses after the first year, whether you have a burn rate or otherwise, but if you're intending on raising capital, whoever you're speaking with, whether it's an angel investor, or a VC, whether it's a bank, the narrative is incredibly important. If you have an accelerated cash conversion cycle, and you have much, much faster growth, immediately the narrative is much more attractive to anyone you're speaking with. So you get a higher multiple or a higher valuation. Looking at how that applies to where your business is when you're raising, naturally you'll have a much higher valuation. You've made more money, you've made more revenue, you have a more aggressive P multiple or earnings multiple on that. So when you go to raise money, even if you're raising the same amount of money, you'll have a much higher valuation. You can ultimately dilute your equity significantly less. Because you're raising a higher valuation, you have to give up less equity. You've also saved more money, or you've spent less. The impact of that, if you're planning on raising, can be the difference between keeping just over half your company or keeping almost 90%. So I just wanted to highlight the impact of having a shortened or accelerated cash conversion cycle. Aside from retaining more equity at the next raise, it's also incredibly important for companies that have burn rates when you're trying to extend the burn rate further, so that way you don't have to raise as soon. Because the impact is you can spread your costs over a greater pool of revenues. So this is something that really every founder of every startup should be very well acquainted with. So, zooming back out a bit, we're going to focus on two things, first of all, with the cash conversion cycle. We're going to focus on timing. And the two things we're going to focus on is bringing your revenue earlier and bringing your costs later. Can anyone think of some examples of how to bring your revenue forward in a business?
Pre-sale.
We've got one example, thank you, pre-sales. Does anyone have any other examples?
Depends on the accounting standard you're using. If it's cash based or accrual based.
Very good point. On a cash basis, do you have any examples that come to mind?
Well, what the gentleman just said, as long as you're collecting at the point of
Yeah, collections is a big issue here, and we're going to touch on that and how to collect sooner. The average, I'll ask you next, but the average late payment on the invoice period in the UAE, in this market, unfortunately, it is over 1 month. So when you're supposed to be paid, when you actually get paid, on average for B2B businesses, is two very different things. Yes, sir.
In the business I am, like in the business, the model where I work, usually the customers pay some amount, 50% of the amount before, so of the actual, like the project, the delivery of the project, so that's the revenue. And secondly, some of the customers, they pay 100%. So I don't know if this is what you mean when you are.
Absolutely, it's a really good example. So the earlier that you can get your clients to pay in the process, sometimes it's more common with down payments in property, for example. If you have significant investment, you often can argue for 10% or 20% or even milestone payments. So certainly getting cash advanced from the customers is one great example. However, we have a few others of how we can get paid earlier and get cash from the revenue that we generate. The first one, to ensure that clients do pay us, as I mentioned, we get often, on average, we're paid 1 month after we're supposed to be paid in UAE. First example of how we can get our clients to pay us sooner is reducing the client friction. So who here has strategies on optimizing clients paying them sooner? Yes.
Well, we have a discount policy on earlier commitments. So let's say our project is like 4 months. So anybody who commits in the first 1.5 months or so, they get higher percent of discount on the actual price, and then the discount becomes less and less, and actually no discount in the last 30 days. So this is how we try to drive the revenue earlier as compared to if they would just think of doing it later.
If you don't mind me asking, approximately what's the discount for when your clients pay earlier?
Well, it just depends because in my case, the cost base is so low that it doesn't matter how much you go. But usually I go from 50% of my actual price, but this 50% is already much higher than what my cost is. So that covers it. So 50%, then 40, then 30, then 20, then none.
Fantastic. So we have an example here where the supplier of good or service is offering a significant discount to get paid earlier. Just to do the math on that one, let's say there's a profit margin of 30%, like on the original example. If we were offering a 5% discount, perhaps a little more conservative, if it results in us getting one more job by the end of the year in our cash conversion cycle, our profit, of course, we more than make back that profit, just by getting the cash to then start the next job. So it's one of those things that's a very strong tool. Yes?
If we can actually talk about the percentage of profit in the end of the the completion of the project, it's actually not 30-40%. It's actually 40% on the basis of all expenses paid out of all the revenue collected. But the return on investment is like 1:4 times. Like for every 100 we get 400.
Okay, that's a very sweet example. Yes.
From a human psychology standpoint, the most tried and tested way is to not deliver the service until they've paid. But assuming that competition provides better terms and you have to acquiesce to that, the second best foolproof way is to yell at your customer.
So I really like that example. We just had yelling at the customer, one of my favorites as well. I'm from Australia and we have an expression called the squeaky door policy. And that's where, I don't know if we have that in other cultures as well. But at home, if you have one door that makes a big squeaking sound whenever you go to open it, that's the one that gets the oil. But unfortunately, we're humans, we're a bit more complicated than doors. So what we need to do is we need to build a relationship with the client. There's lots of different ways to do that. B2C is a lot easier. B2B, often we're the ones selling in small startups directly to the founders of who we're selling to, or the procurement division, or the operations division. But what a lot of founders miss is they invest in the relationship with the procurement department, or whoever is the individual buying the business they're selling to. But they don't develop any relationships with the payables department, the accounting department of who they're selling to, which is a different person, it's a different relationship. And there's lots of different strategies on how to do that. Some people drop by the office the first time when they're delivering an invoice. Developing a personal relationship and just putting a face to the invoice really helps. But taking it further is, as we had the example before, is not delivering the service. Now, if there's more competition, this is really hard to do. However, if you have a niche product, something that requires ongoing management, I'll just use an example from one of our portfolio companies. We have a company that does, as they say, habitat relocation. You and I would say they do fish tanks. What they do is they install these fish tanks, big fish tanks, and then after they install these fish tanks, they have to have ongoing cleaning services. If they don't get paid after the first month, the second month, the third month, on time, they stop cleaning the tanks. These tanks, they cost over $1 million dirhams, plus the fish and everything that goes inside it. So what happens is very quickly that if their clients, they realize this is someone that they have to pay. Now, probably a more relatable example, I don't know how many of us are spending $1 million dirhams on fish tanks in this room, but a more relatable example is air conditioning in summer. It's something we need, we're going to pay for it. If it gets cut off, we feel it straight away.
A very good example in the tech industry is the software maintenance. Like when you buy a software from some company, and then you have to carry on paying for the license again and again. And if you don't pay,
then you get cut off. Absolutely. That's I'm going to come back to subscription financing as well, especially because one of the attractions of software companies and why they get so much funding is because exactly that. The collections aspect is very strong. On the point of client friction, I'll just quickly touch on that one. A lot of the companies that we fund, when we first fund them, they don't have very clear billing procedures, so their invoices, they'll be missing simple things like VAT numbers, order references. They make it hard for their clients to pay them. Maybe they're missing their bank account details in every invoice. It's little things like this. You just want to make it as easy as possible, reduce the payment friction from when you first want them to pay to later when they start paying late when they take time. And that's where we start to yell at them. The last thing on getting paid sooner after you've done the job is third-party funding. And I'm going to talk about this a lot more in the presentation of where you can go. But if you're selling on credit, like most, especially B2B companies, but also some B2C, is there are ways where you can sell the revenue that you've made, so you don't have to wait to collect that money. You can get that money today so you can start the next one. And that's something that we're going to talk about later. So just zooming out, we looked at revenue earlier, and we'll just zoom into the costs later. Okay, does anyone have any suggestions on what they do to try and pay their bills as late as possible other than just not paying their bills. Yes?
Extending their AP days of negotiation.
Absolutely. So it's extending the payment terms, getting your own credit terms back to back with your suppliers. Yeah, another example.
Of course, when we make the contracts with the suppliers, it is on the basis of like how much expected time is from the revenue, and they usually agree because they get the money guaranteed. So let's say we're getting the money in 30 days or 60 days, so we of course pay the suppliers accordingly.
Really good examples. If we can just pull up some more on the screen. Okay, so one big thing that I want to touch on this evening is inventory management. One temptation that a lot of us fall into, especially when we're thinking, you know what, I'm going to be thrifty, I'm going to be a good founder, and not throw my money away, is I'm going to buy things in bulk. I'm going to get that discounts. And that's something that we use as a sales tactic when we're selling our product or service, but it's not necessarily appropriate when we're buying what goes into what we're selling. So just to think of an example, let's say that you're selling fruit. Perishable goods is probably not a good example. So let's say you're selling plastic fruit. It doesn't expire. It's a very niche product, obviously. So you're selling plastic apples and plastic bananas. If you have the $70,000 again, coming back to that original example, and that's all you have to buy inventory, and you put all of it into buying plastic apples because that's the you get offered a discount of 10%. But then you've invested all of your cash that was available for inventory into one product, and you don't have any available to buy the plastic bananas, which for some reason it's just taken off. There's a movie about talking bananas, and everyone wants a plastic banana. This is the sort of thing with a missed opportunity where, excuse me, where by saving 5 to 10% on your inventory cost, you miss the potential profit, potential revenue from the other goods. So one thing that we suggest for our portfolio companies, rather than necessarily buying 3 months, 6 months, 9 months in advance and getting sucked into the discounts that are offered, oftentimes it's actually much better to communicate really clearly between the sales team and the procurement team for whatever the inventory is or the goods are that go into your delivery of your product or service, and do it using something like just-in-time inventory management. There's a lot of strategies around managing your inventory so that you pay for as little as possible as you go. Again, with the ultimate goal of getting more out of that $70,000, not missing the opportunities, but shortening your cash conversion cycle so you can start the next job sooner. Because if you can avoid running out of cash or misusing that cash, then you can reduce the need of going to banks or VC. Okay, so we've just finished on time. I'm going to skip past this part. We'll just go straight into revenue. Okay, is anyone familiar with the customer acquisition cost?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you please explain to us what customer acquisition cost is?
How much you spend to acquire a customer?
Doesn't get much simpler than that, does it? The cost of acquiring a customer, what do you have to invest into getting that customer? So, depending on how you define it, there are different stages of your sales funnel. There's a financial cost, but there's also a time cost. And again, we're focusing on the time for this one. The time of selling new customers at the top of the funnel can cause crucial delays when you're investing into your cash conversion cycle. So one thing that we suggest to our portfolio companies, which they've benefited from, is upselling existing customers. Upselling existing customers, you've already done the filtering. It's a way of cutting past that first stage and getting additional revenue out of something you've already invested in. So maybe you say a few weeks, a few months. Ideally, you've got your ideal customer profile. Ideally, you'd be selling to your ICP, which again reduces your customer acquisition cost from a timing perspective because they'll embrace the product sooner. And again, it comes back to the sales funnel, cutting out the earlier stages of your sales funnel so that you can reduce the conversion time and referrals help a lot with that. And then, of course, finding synergies with an overlap with the existing clients and new services you can offer. The other thing, so I'll just touch on one thing with the customer. Is anyone familiar with customer lifetime value? Yes. Oh, I'll just give someone else a chance because I feel like you know all of the answers. I'll just go someone down the back. Yes.
All the revenue you can generate from a single customer through the lifetime they're sticking with your business.
Absolutely. So the answer just shared was all of the revenue that's generated from a customer over the lifetime of the relationship they have with your business. Perfect. I couldn't describe it better myself. The focus of this in the context of your cash conversion cycle, of course, we want to get more money out of all of our clients. So we want to extend the duration of how long they pay us for. But the key is from that same capital that we've invested, the 70,000, the original example, getting that cash to the cash return to compound and ideally get an ongoing income from these clients that we don't have to tie up additional capital for. So oftentimes with any proposition, there's a lot of upfront cost we have in selling these clients, whether it's with installations, whether it's in sales process and stuff. So if you can reduce the effectively the cost of closing that client initially by extending the duration of the client, the CLV, then this is one of the strategies we have for our clients to get more bang for their buck, so to speak. Okay, so we just talked about the cash conversion cycle and the impact of that. Can anyone explain in their own words the impact of the cash conversion cycle and how it helps your business, perhaps reduce the need for capital or how you would optimize it? Would anyone like to have a go at explaining the cash conversion cycle?
Am I included?
I can't say no.
Well, maybe give somebody else a chance if there is some.
Would someone like a shot? Yes, down the back. Would you like the microphone?
Try.
Yes, we need the microphone because we are filming, so they will hear you only with the microphone.
Well, cash conversion cycle, as I understand, is the amount of time it takes to convert your sales into actual cash. So from purchase to the processing and then sales to actual cash receipt. The amount of time it takes, and the longer it takes, the more working capital you need. So you try and squeeze as much as you can so you can increase the amount of cash and use that cash for future production.
Thank you, that was perfect. And one of the key nuances that the gentleman at the back just mentioned was how much working capital gets tied up in your cash conversion cycle. Because so often when startups are raising funds, they're raising a contingent of working capital for their businesses, especially for the cost of goods sold, to deliver the job. Things that are not an office, which is a long-term investment, not R&D, but things that are related to delivering the job. And this is a big thing for startups, but also for micro enterprises as well.
Maybe I can just add something which might help the conversation and might help others. So what happens in my business, because it's a service-based business, so the actual cost is very low. So our project is like, let's say 6 months. So in the initial months, we make it so low the cost that we don't have to really get to an investor, and we do it from out of our pocket. And then in the 2 months when we are preparing for the project, the third month we start getting the revenue in the basis of the discount percentages that we offer. So this is how we manage cash conversion cycle.
Thank you. It's a really nice example. For businesses that can, it's ideal with businesses that don't have perishables, especially businesses that have a lot of work in the sales process. So, for example, we had an engineering company that had iPad engineers always on call bidding for the jobs. Companies like this, it's really expensive keeping them on call and not on the salary. So that's a really nice example.
Thank you.
So we've talked about the cash conversion cycle, but we still want cash and we still want more cash. So we talked about, we did a show of hands before. About a dozen of us have raised VC funding. None of us have got bank funding yet from the UAE banks. I'm sure a few of us is a work in progress. But where can we find cash if we're a startup or a micro enterprise, which isn't a VC, and which isn't a bank. Does anyone have any examples that they've used that benefited from? Yes.
Pre-sale services. I'll say for them.
Pre-sale services. Absolutely. So we had the example of pre-sale services. So getting the money from the clients that we're selling to, getting them to pay in advance, especially common things like down payments in property and services like that. Very common when there's big delivery of costs.
I can give
Yeah.
example as well. Well, usually the best thing is to raise a small capital from your family and friends, and this is usually non-interest based. So just take it for 2 months, 3 months, and if you have tested your model for a long time, you're sure this cash will come. So this is, I believe, the best way to raise funds on a short-term basis and then to return back. So I think
It's a really good example. If you have those resources available, it's definitely something that should be drawn on. Did I see another example?
Yeah, you can do invoice discounting. Invoice discounting.
So the example we just had was invoice discounting, which happens to be my favorite as an invoice discounter. So this invoice discounting is an example where you discount the invoices that you have where you've sold to a company and you're waiting for the revenue to come in. So depending on the nature of your business, there are different options that are available, and depending on your use of proceeds, there are different options that you should take. So the example of friends and family before was when they're available, a really sweet example, especially if you have things that you need to invest into where you don't have a defined return timeline. So if that's uncertain, especially if there's a degree of risk, friends and family are the most perhaps financially forgiving, but they come with relationship risks as well if you don't deliver. If we can...
Sir, there's a new form that's quite popular in North America now, which is pre-selling revenue rakes. It's a form of monetization or revenue-based lending that's huge in North America these days.
And what's this one called?
Well, the biggest one in North America that's doing it right now is Shopify Capital and Clearbank. Those are the two biggest players in North America. But they lend based on revenue scrape, so future revenues, and you get it.
It's a really nice example, and we'll be touching on that one in a moment.
Sorry.
So that's I'm really glad that you've got that one. I mentioned before, depending on the type of company that you have, different types of funding are available to you. So if you have an MSME, or does anyone have a definition of what makes a startup? What is a startup, and why is it not just a normal micro enterprise? Does anyone want to have a crack at defining what a startup is and what makes it special? Would you like to have a go? Okay, that was a strong shake of the head. Okay, the gentleman here.
I mean, in a startup, the business model has not been finalized yet. You are looking for a repeatable kind of business, which could be pivoted or even by changing your strategy to be found.
So some of the quality is to do with the definition of the business model, certainly. But then startups can be unicorns, they can be billion-dollar startups. So they've found their repeatable sales model, they've got their goods and services which they're delivering, and perhaps they've even started to dominate in a few markets. One of the qualities that differentiates a startup from a traditional business, and 90% of it may or may not be marketing, that's a debate for another day, but one of the qualities is the growth potential and the nature of how that company, that what makes it a startup, is changing the market that they're in. If you're a traditional business selling, the example before was plastic apples and bananas, let's pretend that's a normal thing to sell. It's not a startup, it's just a traditional business selling semi-traditional products, putting plastic fruit in plastic bowls. A startup might be defining a whole new sector which hasn't been done before, which is holographic fruit in holographic bowls. I've certainly never seen it. I doubt anyone else has, so I don't think we will either. But the idea is defining, ideally, a new market or approaching the existing market, like what Uber did with taxis, like Airbnb, creating a whole new market to address. So I just wanted to define the difference between MSMEs, which is micro small enterprises, so versus a startup, because the differentiation affects why their funding is different. So if we zoom in on MSMEs, then we can see that perfect, thank you. There's really two different categories of funding that MSMEs can get that is really not so much appropriate for startups. So MSMEs, again, it's a traditional business. We're not trying to change the world, we're just trying to grow a good business. Generally, the funding that's available for MSMEs is either broken into when you've delivered the good or service, or after, post-delivery of the good or service. Why is that? Because most MSMEs, they don't have the physical security to provide for the banks, hence why none of us have got bank funding for our business here. But they also, they don't have the economic substance necessarily to do any sort of loan, anything on the capital stack. They also don't have the narrative that's required for, that startups have, for all of that aspirational capital and all of the avenues that we have that we'll dig into for startups. So, can anyone give an example of pre-purchase funding that a standard microenterprise might have access to? So if you're a standard business, how would you fund the delivery of your service? Where can you get money from, other than friends and family, which is a great example, before you've done the job? So the example over here is we had invoice discounting at the, over here in the corner, and we also had revenue-based financing. Those are both after the job has been done. Does anyone have any examples before the job's been done? Please be talk to.
Kickstarter, crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding, Kickstarter?
Credit cards.
So, credit cards? Yeah,
Credit
that's,
loans.
okay, so, yes, I won't repeat that one. Not dismissing it, just not repeating it. So we had credit cards, we had a website. Inventory loans, absolutely. So, jumping back to the theme of the cash conversion cycle and funding. So we had inventory finance. So one of the things that you can do is there are groups that will pay for the inventory of your whatever it is that you're selling. They will buy it for you, and then they will take a return after it's been delivered. What that does is that reduces your initial cost of delivering on the job. You don't need to dilute equity for that. You don't need to go through a long due diligence process. You also don't need to, oftentimes, go through a hefty bank process, which for those of us who eventually do get funding from the bank, that's at least 6 to 9 months, and certainly not the first bank you speak with. So inventory finance, there's also, with inventory finance, there are two different groups of inventory financings. Some that will finance consumable inventory, which is more fast-moving goods, and others that will finance things that are to be installed, to be used on an ongoing basis. And those, also an example of that one would be a group like Reiki, with specific examples. So they will, they'll finance anything that doesn't need a license to reduce your cost of goods sold. The other thing, post-delivery, so we had invoice discounting, mentioned at the back. We've got revenue-based finance for any groups that are have repeatable sales. We also have, for microenterprises that have subscriptions, they have subscription finance. And the reason there are groups that finance subscription businesses specifically is because they have something which one of the members of the audience mentioned earlier, which was repeatable sales and predictable sales. Very attractive, mostly for software businesses. So these are the sorts of things which are very good for post-delivery. Something unique or more prevalent in this region for pre-purchase is Sukuk. Sukuk is it's from traditional Islamic finance, but the principle is taking a profit share, investing initially, agreeing on what the profit will be, and then taking that from the job that you do. So that's something that you would have as pre-purchase funding. All of these options are available more for standard small business, not necessarily appropriate for startups, but for most of us in the room, if we can't define ourselves as a startup, then perhaps one of these options are available for us to access funding. And they're available broadly in the market. Yes?
When you see with startups that they are essentially working 9 to 5 and then they're doing their own thing in the evenings, so they're bootstrapping it themselves. They themselves are paying for stuff before they get to the MSN stage.
So with startups, they're paying for things, they've got the same bills to pay, but the way they fund those is often different. Sure, they'll be using friends and family as an example. But one of the examples before, which was given, was crowdfunding by the gentleman on the side. However, crowdfunding is more common, and if we go to the next one. So cash for startups, there's 4 options which are more available for startups, which are not available for micro enterprise. So crowdfunding is one, venture debt's another for those that are VC backed. I just got a quick little side note that I'm 50% of the way through the presentation, but I'm 100% of the way through the time. So if we have like a time conversion cycle, anyone specializing in that, I'd appreciate it. The reason these are more appropriate for startups, you mentioned crowdfunding before, is retail investors, people that don't know you directly, they're investing based on the narrative. And this is something we talked about before with startups. They're changing the game, they're selling you on the vision of the future. MSMEs, when they get funding, they're selling their finance providers on the job they're doing. The credit risk from the investor or their risk assessment isn't on the micro enterprise itself. It's on the job that's just been done or is about to be done. So they're evaluating who the clients are and the certainty of getting paid. Startups, they can access crowdfunding because of the narrative. They can access venture debt when they're VC backed. They have access to grants because generally they're special purpose. So for example, I'm issuing grants and I'm not judging for industry advanced tech. The companies we're issuing the grants for, we're doing that for companies that specifically focus on decarbonisation with new solutions that need support. So something like that, it's not necessarily companies that have been established for a long time or doing the same old, same old. We're funding, in that example, through the government, companies that are solving a specific issue. It's very issues-based. And of course, accelerators. Quick 30-second note on accelerators, you have to be really careful about which one you partner with, if that's the path you go down. Because different accelerators, depending on whether they're a corporate accelerator or a general accelerator, they're trying to solve for different issues, and they help different types of startups. So it's something that we can go on to later if we have more time. But just to close up, so if you do need cash, you want to learn more about different sources of cash, feel free to reach out. I'm a big fan of supporting founders in any way, and especially any founder from this community, because I love what the whole team is building. Thanks, Art, for bringing it together, and Jamil for starting it, and thank you guys for changing the world. Thank you.
Well, this question in the end seems very easy to answer. Thank you.
Well, for anyone that does
very quickly, does anyone have any questions, this one or otherwise? Does anyone have any questions about how to access cash, how to find cash in your own business?
Where are you from?
Where am I from? So I'm originally in Australia, from the finance industry, and that's, I think, the best answer to that one. We've been funding startups in the UAE for quite some time now, and funding them on a revenue-based funding model since licensed in 2021. So anyone that needs that. If anyone is a B2B company that sells on credit, which is every B2B company in this country, then you're the kind of company that we fund. And please just speak with the lady in front if that's something that you need. Just got a question on the side.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to clarify a question, and maybe it's on other people's minds as well. What are you looking for when you want to fund a startup? And what has been your experience with the UAE ecosystem as opposed to other countries?
Thank you. So the question, just to summarize it, was what are we looking for specifically? And I'll answer in a more general sense from investors as well. So what we're looking for specifically as a revenue accelerator, on one of the earlier slides, we're looking at who the customers are, we're looking at the payment terms, how likely they are to pay. So all of the things that you can do to optimize your cash conversion cycle are the sorts of things which funders like us, we look for to fund your business. So is your product something that's niche? The company that in our portfolio that's doing habitat relocation or fish tanks, what they're doing is they have a really strong grip on their clients. In their case, their fish tanks are quite special, and I'm probably underselling it. Don't put me in a position for promotion. But they have a position where they can collect on all of the invoices on all of the jobs that they do. For us, that's very important because the payment rate, the problem with not getting paid in this market, which is a very common issue, some industries. So for example, we had an application come in from a labor supply company that did events, and that company had terrible time trying to collect payments because when they're providing labor to events, after they've done the event, there's no leverage that they have over the client to get paid. So this is an example of what we look for when we're funding. Depending on the source of funding though, we're very focused on who the clients are and how likely you are to get paid. If a funding partner is more generally in revenue-based finance, they'll be the same as that. But if they're looking at startups, especially in equity, it's very much the narrative. So one of our portfolio companies was also on that side as well. They were infrastructure heavy. We funded them back in 2022. And they were special issues focused biofuel conversion, etc. They got large enough that they're now at the point of nearing IPO on a secondary market. They've said 50 million kilograms of CO2, which is kind of cool, which we're really proud of. But businesses like that, when it comes to equity, it was that growth trajectory. So I hope that answers the question. But every investor, depending on the type of business you are and the type of investor that you're approaching, they have different requirements of what they focus on.
I just have a question. In case you provide cash against confirmed pay order that we have from one of the clients who is one of the most reputed companies in UAE, let's say. So how much time does it take for you if I apply and then to get the cash?
Okay, so this varies for every company that you'll apply to. In our case, the two quickest, we did two with the same timeline, that the aquarium fish tank one in habitat relocation, and we also did a property growth for each one. We did both of those in 6 days, from when we met them to when we signed the contract, and then it took us another 48 hours to put the cash in the account. The reason a group like us can be so quick is because we weren't necessarily evaluating their business, we were looking at a very specific part of their business. So that's why a group like us can be quicker. But generally speaking, for most other revenue-based accelerators, if you were to look at that, it depends on the nature of your business. So for example, if you're an online marketplace, or if you're collecting most of your payments through a payment machine, you have really clear financial data. So for companies like yours, there are revenue-based financiers that can fund your business in, they claim, 72 hours. Now, usually it takes a week because they need additional documents. But if you're a business, you're mostly cash-based, and it's a harder time for the financier to review your business and really understand the business. That's why equity investor DCs, their typical time will be 6 months, and they'll need other anchor investors to do the lead because they've done all the homework, or even banks, if and when they do fund. That's why they take 6 months, because it's often quite opaque.
That's great. That's a great service. Secondly, I've got one more question. So you are just provide cash on the basis of if there's guaranteed revenue or something coming up. You do not go into equity funding, am I correct?
That's right. So us as an example, so we're focused on micro enterprise, and we do have 2 startups in the portfolio at the moment, but more than micro enterprise. Our model is we do not touch equity, we do not touch control. All we do is we get out of the founder's way, because founders know their business best. We give them the cash, but we also give them the financial guidance. One of the mistakes we saw back in 2022 was we gave a company money to shorten the cash conversion cycle. But we didn't explicitly say that. We didn't say, you know what, if we're giving you cash, you need to be using it to pay for your inventory or things like that. They ended up getting a bigger office. Broke my heart, because then when summer came, they didn't need the office, they never needed the office. They went through a cash crunch, and they had to get angel friends and family to dig them out of a bit of a hole. So now what we do is we provide the cash up front, but what we also do is provide the CFO completely complimentary, data analytics, advice on how to use funds, structure contracts, all of that financial stuff, because we found a lot of the founders in the room today, and in general, are amazing at their product. They're amazing at understanding what their customers' need is, because that's often why we've started our business. They're also great salesmen, because often the founders are the people that are selling the product for their business. But we can't be great at everything, And in most cases, at least the founders that come through our sales funnel, they don't have the time to focus on structuring their the finances of their business correctly. So we come in and we do that complimentary, because it helps us sleep at night as well. Yes,
What is the range of your costs? I mean, if you look at it as a debt, right, interest.
Absolutely.
So what is the range?
What's the percentage?
Yeah,
Absolutely. So the question here was, what is the range of costs on the invoice discounting, which is what we're doing. So that's a really important one. For invoice discounting, there's the direct costs, and then there's hidden costs as well, which have to be considered. So with any invoice discounter, or there are other examples like forfeiting, factoring, which is if it's against like a few big clients, if you have blue chip clients, any of these groups that are buying your future revenue like that, what they'll do is they'll finance a lower part of your monthly revenue, but charge, like maybe it's 50%, 60%, but charge you a discount rate on the full amount. So what we do is we charge on, let's say we're getting $100,000 to a company, we'll be max charging on 125 because technically we're buying the invoices at a discount, and for us we charge about 2% a month. So, or 2% of the base cost, and then we have other stuff if the clients want to.
So is it like gross, not net, right? It would be like 24%?
So you're looking at about 24%, but the idea is if you can do one extra job, in our companies that we're funding, often their payment terms are 60 days, so they can do 2 or 3 more jobs. But if you can do one more job where you're making 10% per annum, or 20%, 10% or 20% per job, the idea is that you have the direct cost of the discount charges, but then you get past that by making significantly more revenue. So the example in the beginning of the presentation was by shortening the cash conversion cycle, doubling your profit. In the example I gave, we had 5% per month. So I just mentioned our fees at 2%. At 5% per month, you would still double your profit on the example.
And what is your, so far, how long you've been in UAE?
So the question was how long I've been in the UAE doing our service.
How long have you been, your company has been in UAE, and what is the percentage of defaulted, let's say, financing? Thank you.
Okay, so this is a really important question. And the question is, how long have we been in the UAE? I've been here, I moved here in 2010, funding startups in general since about 2015, and investing after raising money for small business, started funding them myself in around 2020 and got the formal license in January of 2021. So been doing it for a while. We haven't had any defaults on our instruments, but what has been an issue is our clients having defaults from their customers.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
So this is very common. So 100% of our customers that we've given money to have had their customers default on them. 100%.
What percentage of your overall portfolio, let's say, and what is the default duration of the default period? Like, where you have
Absolutely. So the question is about collections in general. For us, the non-recoverables. So in our case, we've had 0 non-recoverables because of how we structure it, how we support our clients. However, for our clients, it depends by industry. So for example, there's a property brokerage company in our portfolio at the moment. Their payment terms from the developers directly are mostly, it's a mix of 60 to 90 days. Their average when they actually get paid is about 120 days. And then there are a few that, it's been 6 months and we believe we're going to get paid. We'll see what happens. It's certainly a technical default.
It's not a default as a default, they paid, right?
There are so many ongoing that they're going to pay one day. It's not really a question of if, but when. Generally speaking, with most companies that we're seeing across industries, it's at least 10% of receivables that are, where I come from originally in Australia, where you would have written it off. But these companies will keep it on the books. So it's normally a tale of, got a lot in the first 30 days, maybe 40% of the revenue, 30% of the revenue in the next 60 days, in the 90 days. We have a document we look at called aging receivables. So for anyone that has a business here, you'll be getting paid on different timelines from your clients, both because of the contract that you have, but also because your clients just aren't paying you, which is all the things we talked about earlier today.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
have
so
to
we're
leave the
out of
speaker,
time.
so we need to
So,
respect the time.
best of luck, everyone. Remember, really go to the questions and good luck.
Thank you so much for your time. And as Jamil mentioned at the beginning, we have our next speaker. He is going to share with us his journey. Congratulations on your exit. I saw your post on LinkedIn and I saw a bit of your story. So I'm very excited to hear how you built a company that now was acquired for one of the biggest companies of the Middle East. So please, Mashfique, come to join us, and please a round of applause for him.
Thank you. Hi guys. I am not much of a public speaker, so this is a very unusual experience for me. You are amazing. I'm actually jealous of you. I was not born in Dubai. I came to Dubai when I was 1 month old because my father joined. Hello? I think it's fine now. So yeah, I So my father was, you could say, one of the founding team of DIWA. He came in 1978 and worked for the first power station. And so basically I grew up over in Dubai, and I grew up in Karama, and I never moved out of there. My father put together enough money for me to go to Georgia Tech in the US, in Atlanta. It was the #4 engineering college in the US. And he spent his life savings sending me there. I met some really smart people over there. That's where I got the bug for building things on the internet. And after 2 years, I got kicked out for a low GPA. My father was furious, and I think he hasn't spoken to me since then. Well, it was mostly like, yes, no, conversations became like that. But he did put me into American University of Sharjah, where I did a couple of years. Again, I was in electrical engineering, and what I did not realize was that engineering is basically all math, and I'm horrible at math. So I joined American University of Sharjah. I did well for a couple of years because I already had my 2 years in the US. And after that, I spent 3.5 years more there, failing a couple of courses every semester. But I met a couple of friends there, and I already had a website that I started when I was in the US. So my friends saw this, and I was making like 10,000 dirhams per month or something like that already when I was in college. And in the final couple of years of my time at American University of Sharjah, I stopped asking my father for the fees because it was just an awkward conversation. So I was just paying for it myself quietly. But then I met a couple of friends there who said, let's do something together. And I was like, okay, let's do something locally. And we started drivearabia.com. And we were a new website. And the quickest way to get publicity was to pair up with a local newspaper. There was a newspaper back then, this was around 2004. newspaper called 7 Days. I don't know if you guys have been here a long time, you know about it. I think we outlasted them, so they're not around anymore. But they just publish our stories, our reviews, and when we used to borrow cars for test drives, we used to stay there for 7 days. So, and so when we used to publish our stories, they used to put our logo on top of the page. So, what happened after that? Yeah, we were just running this little business, then we all graduated. So my other two co-founders, the friends of mine, they actually got bored of it because we were not making any money. But, and they were not really car fans. You know, it's like when you say you like Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but you cannot really go into the details and engine specs and things like that. That doesn't really make you a car fan, you just like cars a little bit. But I was really into it, so I just carried it on, and I had income from my other little website that I was running about cars for the US. And yeah, we all graduated, and this was in 2007. And we started getting now 1 or 2 ad campaigns from advertisers like GM and things like that. It was like peanuts. By 2010, we were it was time to take it to the next level, so I started looking for someone to go at sales. Now, the benefit of having a media website is it's in front of people already, so we got approached by a company called Bait.com, which is like a jobs website. They were interested in investing. I said no, because I did not understand anything about how the startup world worked back then. So, and if you Google about it back then in 2010, not much information came out. Right nowadays, everything comes up pretty easily. Back then, there was nothing. So I just said I want to go ahead on my own. So then they offered to do our ad sales. So that was a good timing. So we were just carrying on. They suddenly started making us a lot of money. I think when we got our first 6-figure check, it was, I started configuring a Porsche 911 on the website, Porsche.com. And, but what happens is, as you are saying, payments are usually delayed. And the excitement dies out when you've been sitting on it for a couple of weeks and then you realize maybe you should take it easy. So yeah, we've just been carrying on, and about a year later, I think the CEO of Bait sat down for a meeting with me and said, if I gave you $500,000, what would you do with it? And I actually said, I don't know. I just want to carry on as you are, because again, I didn't understand anything about how startups worked. So we carried on, we made good money. We got a few buyout offers from a unicorn in India, and there are a few others. But they were not really working out because they were always lowballing, and you think you should make much more when you sell your business. But what happened in 2015 is all these websites such as BuzzFeed, Vice.com, all in the US, these are all media websites. What they did is they raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they had nothing to show for it. So the valuations of media websites tanked. So there was no point selling the business anymore. So we just carried on, I think 2015 was our peak in terms of revenue. I kept saving money all this time, while I think in our best months, I was banking like 100,000 dirhams as just savings in my personal account, because I didn't know what to do with the money. It was just a backup for a rainy day, because I understood the industry. I knew that Facebook and Google are a threat to the advertising industries or things like that. I just wanted to see how far I could carry it on my own. So then what happened was there was an oil price crisis around 2015 when the oil prices tanked, and then people started leaving the UAE and the Middle East in general. So our revenues tanked with that. But because our advertising was mostly new car ad seats. So, but we were still profitable because I never invested in an office. I never like upgraded my lifestyle. I just carried on in our little 80s apartment in Karama, and so we just cruised through that downturn. So around 2019, I started panicking a little bit because I was wondering how long that industry is going to last. So I started going around talking to some startups that spoke to us, car switch, things like that, Dubizzle cars. And then someone took me to Jaitek's Future Stars. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And there's all these startups. I was never really involved in the startup world. So, and everyone seemed to know me somehow. We never got as much respect in the automotive industry because you deal with PR people in these car companies and they are approached by, say, 20 different magazines and 100 different influencers every day claiming they're the biggest. So they have no clue what's going on. But the general public, I think we were a bit better known. So in 2019, I got the startup bug. And with the money I had saved up, I thought we could expand into something else in the mobility sector. But then I realized that I'm not very good at speaking or sales. So again, it was timing. I wanted to get into car subscriptions. And I didn't want to build it myself. Around that time, a startup called Karasti was launching. They had 0 customers. They sent me a press release because I was media. And I replied to them asking, would you like an investment? They were like, sure. Yeah, and they put in like, some amount. I went big on it actually because I had all these savings from the last 10 years of scrounging. So then COVID happened and we were fine again because we had a lot of money sitting in the bank. We were even profitable, weirdly enough, during COVID. But my investment, Karasti, was in trouble. And they were down to like 1 employee. And he wanted to shut it down and sell it. And I was like, no, dude, don't sell it. I'll give you some more money, but I'm going to eat up more equity. So that's what I did. And thankfully, lockdown ended, I think after 1 or 2 months, I don't remember. I thought it would go on for a year. So. And then the car subscription segment started booming, so we were all good. That was my first investment, and then the second one was Karzati, which was a used car online showroom type of deal. They invited me to check out their facility, and I was like, damn, I think I might invest in them. So when they invited me to visit the facility, I'm like, so dude, do you want investment? And they're like, sure. Okay, here. And these are quick transactions, they throw a safe note and we just transfer it. It's probably a bit stupid on my part, but again, I feel like I could read people because of my 10 years of experience with PR people. So, when I find a good founder who seems to have all the qualities that looks like they might succeed, and preferably they're not like me, then I invest in them. So this was my second investment. I actually exited that. They sold it to a unicorn called Kawak, so I doubled my money in 1 year. So my third investment was my Sayara, which was this garage aggregator. I think my guys might have come across the billboards by now. I learned a lot from those guys. Those guys are new and they were asking for weird valuations and things like that. So I told them to come back later and they did come back and give me a good deal. So this was my third one. And they approached me through LinkedIn. And then I think I did 7 more angel investments until today. And and they all came through LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a very powerful tool for connections. I couldn't stress that enough. I keep telling that to my friends who have like 200 followers. They're all my colleagues in the office. But the thing about regular people and founders is that founders can adapt and evolve based on what they learn. Regular people don't seem to be bothered to change. So I cannot even drag any of my friends to co-invest with me in any of these investments. So I don't even talk about it with them anymore. So I think one of my investments is sitting right there. Actually, is Mashfique from Financials. I actually only met him through Zoom when I was actually moved to Canada in 2021 because I just kept having visa problems over here, so it was time to get a better passport. Mashfique here, I did a deal with him over Zoom. I think it was a 20-minute chat, 10-minute chat, and just fired up a safe note and it was done. He's doing amazing now. He's I don't know what to say about it. I think by now I think he should be making more money than us now. So he's only been at it for like 2-3 years. But yeah. So I was head of the investment team, and on our website, I was sitting in Canada now. I was like sick of dealing with agencies, things like that. So my brother and me got in a third partner to run the website while I was sitting in Canada. And what we were doing was we started like an automated classified section with just listings of from prominent leaders, like the big companies only. Just an automated listing, and that's when Dubizzle approached us because we actually contacted them to list their cars on our little website, but they were actually awaiting us, and then 6 months later they asked for a meeting and said, "Hey, we like to get bought out," and I'm like, "Sure." So after that. There were a lot of Zoom calls because I was sitting in Canada. These calls were for me in the middle of the night, and I'm horrible on Zoom, so I was really afraid I was going to blow the deal. But yeah, we keep talking. They had, I think it was the head of ad sales who pushed for the sale. So it helps in M&A when you have an ally in the company that's buying you out, because then you have someone speaking for you, and they have their own board meetings and things like that. So this was around a year ago, which would have been April last year. Then I dragged on till August when I visited Dubai. We had some more chats, and it was in October when they finally made the offer after going back and forth on the price. And that's when the real due diligence started. Before this, there is a due diligence, but you have to play shy. It's like you just send a few screenshots of your traffic or just a couple of years of your financial statements or something. You cannot really ever reveal everything. But once they make a commitment that they're going to buy you out after the proper due diligence, that's when you open up everything. And it's a bit scary. But then again, you have to understand your acquirer, because there are a lot of big local companies that I don't really trust. So there are so many stories out there, but the guys at Dubizzle seem very straightforward and honest. So the deal was supposed to be done by end of December, but it just dragged on and on. There are lots of little things that no one really knows is going to come up when it comes up. For example, we were on a professional license and we had to convert to an LLC, things like that. Then Dubizzle is actually planning an IPO, so this is public knowledge. That's what they want every single piece of information to be accurate, which means if you have ever looked at your own trade licenses, there will be like 10 mistakes in it. So you have to correct every single one of them. And it's even worse when you correct it and then the correction is still wrong. And then when you go in the next day to get it fixed again, they say the system is down, and that went on for a few days. So these were the delays that came up, and the weirdest part is we actually never had a proper accounting system either. It was just a one big Excel sheet. But we kept good records on that. But we still had to clean up a lot on that as well. And when we started Dubizzle, they actually helped us audit. We got a free audit from them, so that was good. We actually discovered some payments which were never made to us by bank. Then we just paid for it, and the payout. That was a good partner. But yeah, these things came up, and somehow the deal dragged on till before Eid. And when we went with the lawyers to the DVD, I think on the last day before Eid holiday started, the guys at Dubizzle, the lawyers, they actually went a few times before to the DVD to check that all the paperwork is correct. And at the last minute they told us that, oh, now we have the founders, the partners have to cancel their visas. And so they had a check ready in hand, and we had to go back because, and I had to scramble to arrange my next visa, and then I also found out that I was going to get paid, we were going to get paid with a manager's check, but then it turns out many of the local banks here don't handle US dollar manager's checks. So some piece of information for you there. And at this point we were getting a bit antsy, so I put my faith in them. All the contracts are signed, they were all straightforward. So I told them, let's do the deal, I'll transfer the company, and then you guys can get the money back from the manager's check and pay me later by wire transfer. What I didn't know was that it takes 7 to 10 days for the money from the manager's check to be refunded. So that 7 to 10 days was the most tense in my life. And we had already started working for them as well, so it was a bit weird. They were straightforward, and I asked around, yeah, it does take 7 to 10 days. As soon as they got the money, they told me, and then next day they transferred it to me. It was $5 short because there was some fee. and then we told them, and I said, in the interests of completing the deal, that maybe we should get that $5. They said, come by the office, we'll give it to you in cash. And then, but then they just transferred it anyway. I'm like, okay, great. Then we confirmed it, and we were like, yeah, congrats, it's done. So, but yeah, I spent a few days in the office now, and I think if you guys are founders who are hitting the streets, and your office life might not be for you guys. I'm finding it a bit awkward nowadays, so, but I only have like 6 months with them as a consultant, so they told me I don't have to come in every day. They just call on me when I need it, so I don't go. But, yeah, and after that I've just been meeting people. So Shafiq and my other investment answer from my side, I actually consulted with them about this deal to see if I'm doing the right thing. They helped me get into the mindset of whether I should go ahead with it and whether the numbers are correct, whether the contract seems decent. So when we were haggling on the price, I started at a certain price, and then they started at a certain price, and we met in the middle. And I was still going to say no, but when I spoke to Answer from my Sayara, he said, that the way to think about this is that would you pay this much for your own business? And knowing what I know, I was like, no. So I was like, all right, next day I did the deal. So, yeah, and I hope they don't see this. Yeah, that's about it. I have no future plans. I'm just gonna like one day buy a Porsche, and so that's been pending, but not right now. I think I still have to cash out some of my angel investments. I'm looking at Shafiq now. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. The exit, the number floating around, that's not the accurate one. I'll tell you the guys that right now, but it's good enough for me to not work anymore. And but I'm looking at Shafiq now to move me up the ladder in the world skills. I would recommend the people to do what I did, because when I started investing in when I started angel investing, I went a bit crazy, and now before this sale, 33% of my net worth was in safe notes. So, I would not recommend it. I think the correct number is 5%, not 33. So, but yeah, I have more money now. When I was doing this angel, before starting a business, I actually did not ever consider my little website to be part of my net worth, because I never raised any funding, so honestly, it had no value. But we got an offer at the same time from another outfit, and they were offering 1/5 of what Dubizzle offers. So, you know, it's always what the buyer offers, and that's the value of the business. So that's about it. I think you guys are supposed to ask me stuff.
Were you ever tempted not to sell? Were you ever tempted not to sell? Say, you know what, this is something I worked on. I'm also from Canada, so I understand that we start with really, it's a hard start, it's a difficult start. So how are you feeling?
It was hard because it was 20 years of my life. It became my identity. And we ran it out of our bedroom, so we always had an office, but we kept running it out of our bedroom in Karav, and my neighbors are all laborers and things like that. So no one, not my target customers, so no one really asked me what I was doing. But as I said, I had a target price, and I was not ready to sell. But then I spoke to Ansar from my Sayara, and he told me how to think about it, and that's what I did the deal.
So it's his recommendation.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea, it would have been like what money I would have made in 10 years, I just made it through this sale, so, don't have to work.
Thank you. Good, amazing story. Question: your father, did you see him after you sold?
Whenever I call my home in Bangladesh, I only speak to my mother. But my mother did not tell him that I was selling the business. But after the deal was done, that's when she told him. And I actually asked to speak to him, and now I think we've patched up. I think maybe I made him cry, I don't know.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that you're a brilliant speaker, and you don't have to be shy. And second, I would like to say that I can relate. I've been through the same process in Russia when I was selling my first company. I also have a lot of friends who did their exits. So
how do you feel now? I know many people who just exit their big business they've been doing for many years. They feel, like some feel depression, some even when they have, even worse when they have a lot of money, and they realize they don't have to work. They feel, like missing out something. So, what's your plan? That's the first question. And the second, I'm gonna move from Karama because I feel a little sorry for you.
Are you depressed, sir? How is your depression?
I'm depressed for other reasons, but not this. I think around October, when they gave me the go-ahead that they were going to do me due diligence and all that, so it was just by email, and they said I just have to say I agree on the email, not a real contract. So I was rolling around in bed the entire night. I think a couple of days went by like that, just rolling around, wondering whether I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot. And it was a very uneasy time. But I think it affected me more because I got into this because I liked cars and I liked writing. So these two passions came together. So I think if your business is something you're completely detached from, let's say you're selling used handbags or something, and you're a man, then maybe you wouldn't care much about it if you sell the business, but that's about it. And Karama, one day, right now I'm having to maintain 2 homes, one in Canada, one here, so I don't mind saving money.
Thank you, amazing story. I've got 2 questions. The first one is, in your journey, the business had its ups and its downs, and obviously it finished on an incredible high, but you mentioned 3 or 4 times COVID, the oil crash, and 1 or 2 others. The business took a big hit, things slowed down. You mentioned that you were able to get through those periods because you had such a low cost base. You did things like not paying for a month first, etc. The first question is, do you have any advice for founders extending their runway or just surviving those downturns? Any advice on how to keep their unnecessary expenses low? And the second question is, obviously you made the right decision to continue going, and you mentored one of your portfolio companies to continue, but some companies, they should stop. How do you know, as a founder, if this is something that you should continue pursuing for yourself, your stakeholders, your family? So the 2 questions. Thank you.
I'll ask you the second question because I forgot. What is the question? Oh yeah. So as I told you guys, our peak was in 2015, and then we had this downward trend from 2015 to 2020. We got I think 2 offers that time. And it's a bad point to sell when you're showing negative revenue. As a negative revenue, you could say negative revenue growth, because you get lowballed like crazy. So then COVID hit, and then we have this uptrend again because car sales are going up, and we had a decent year last year. So the best time to sell is when your graph is going upwards. When it turns this way, you're already losing. So this was the time to do it, and
Kept the cost low.
Kept the cost low? We are just cheap people, so.
But I want to emphasize this point. I just was off the phone on a startup that was raising, and let's say they're early stage, and they want to raise $5 million to cover their costs over the next 24 months. So you can do the math and see how much is their cash burn rate. And I asked the question, what will do the money? And they said, we're going to hire a team, we're going to build a platform, we're going to hire, and I mean, I will know more, maybe it's the right number for them, but how do you say, I'm not going to market as much? I'm not going to hire all these people right now. Like, what decisions do you have to do?
What stage are they at?
They're super early, this is an anecdotal, hypothetical, you'll hear a lot of people like this. I'm sure there are many examples like this.
If you talk about burning through $5 million before you pre-seed and hiring a big team, you better have a good story to back it up, because otherwise I don't think they know what they're doing. One of my investments is in Pluto, the corporate card. They raised $6 million before they even launched the product. So that is crazy. There's a funny story behind that. I actually, two of the founders are from my country. So when I saw them finally come out of stealth, I sent them a message on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, great job seeing people from my country doing well, and I was like, would you like some investment? They said, hey, we're not driving you, this, that, and the, wait with the question. But 1.5 years later, they were raising a bridge round quietly, and Shafiq over there dropped my name at some founders gathering, and they contacted me, and I got in on that bridge round at the same valuation as the previous time. So these guys managed to raise $6 million before even launching, because one founder was XY combinator, the other two were in Shopify, Uber, this, that. And they gathered together 20 people in their team who were all ex-Google, this, that, all from Canada, but the business is based in Dubai. So these are outliers. These are not natural ways of doing things, unless you have I think a second-time founder can probably get away with it, not a first-timer. So how we cut costs is, we just get frugal. When I had a lot of money, and I wasn't investing, I was just buying a new car every year. So that kind of stopped after 2017. We kept our costs so low that I could live, my family of 4 can live on 10,000 dirhams if you have to. So your biggest cost is your house rent. So if you can cut that somehow, the rest is easy. So there is actually one of my other investments, the founder is struggling actually. He says they cut their salary from 25,000 to 16,000, and he actually quit because he let the second co-founder run the business now. I'm like, dude, there were more places to cut costs. So when you're a founder, you have to be ready to cut down on your lifestyle, no matter what it takes. Otherwise, when times get bad, COVID was completely unexpected, and a lot of people were not prepared for it. I was always preparing for a rainy day because I'm Bangladeshi, so that's why I also went to Canada, this, that, whatever. That rainy day fund actually helped us cruise through COVID as it was like a family picnic. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm looking to raise funding 500K. Okay, just kind of in the dilemma, like, what is as a founder, is it through safe notes would be a better idea, or is it investing with a strategic investor, like setting a valuation at the 10-15% or that place? So any thoughts that you can suggest as a founder? So I've been running a bootstrap business, profitable in India, very happy. No talking about money. We have a product, we want to sell it in the market. So some people have shown interest. I just want to kind of decide how I go about it. So you can give me some thoughts on that.
Just ask him directly for the money.
There is no right answer to this.
I feel like my first investment was actually an proper equity round, but I feel he did it because he didn't know any better. Most of my other raises were safe notes, so. But if you do get someone in the earliest rounds, right, make sure he adds some, or he or she adds some strategic value as well. You just don't hand out. So bringing us to Shafiq again. Right. He wants the free publicity. He raised from only a handful of people, I think, right? He took some money from his friends and family as well, which is beside the point, but he also told me he didn't spend any of the investor money either, because technically he's actually running a bootstrap, but he has a rainy day fund as well. So he's a former CFO, so he does all this. I also sign up with him and do the services. But I think still on a safe note with you, right? Yes. Yeah. The only problem is that if he decides to just go bootstrap the whole way, then my safe note never converts. So that's a bit of a worry.
Thank you very much. I think it's a big success. Actually, your humble personality, the way you talk, the way you currently discuss your wins, I think those are big wins and big congratulations. I also want to ask you, how big was your team before you sold it to Dubizzle? How many people you have? And the next question is, how did you manage your timing? Like, how many hours a day you focus on your business? How do you push yourself?
So the initial team was just me, and that's it. I had those two co-founders, but they were going around contacting car companies, things like that. Then they dropped out, and then it was just me again. And I learned coding. We did some in college. I think everyone did coding by now in college. And coding is something that you can just look up instructions on the internet and do it yourself. And now it's even easier. So, and later on, my brother joined me, and we were just two people, and we were the only two full-timers. The way I did not want to complicate my life was by just outsourcing everything. So first we outsourced ad sales to Wait. That was a big blessing. Then when the site became more complicated, we outsourced the tech to teams in India, Bangladesh, even in Dubai. And what else was there? Even accounting, we outsourced it to a point. So basically, even many of our writers were outsourced freelancers. So everything was outsourced, and none of them got any equity. But the thing is, they all became my friends, so they're not going around saying that they got ripped off or anything. So never say that your company is your family, but you are kind of like a family. So.
What's the typical day in the life for you now? Now that I see you are more like a chill guy now, I'm sure when you're building up with it was having very difficult, very different. Not that I'm reminding you of that side, but what is the day in life for you now with having exited with some golden numbers perhaps?
I think she also asked me that. How did I spend my time? The thing is, the early days I used to work from morning, from when I get up, it was from my bedroom, right? So I used to just brush my teeth, not even have breakfast, and just sit on a computer all day. And I used to like that work, so I used to keep doing it. I had a TV running on the side, and that was the business. And I think one of the reasons I never took on investment either was that I wanted to keep you know, if you take on investment, then you're a 9 to 5 guy, maybe 9 to 9 guy, work all day, and you have to show profit all the time, and you have to explain why things are going bad. But as things were working on its own, and I got more team members, freelance, whatever, I started having more free time. So, and then when my kids were born, you could say that was a blessing because I actually got to spend 24 hours a day with my kids for the last 10 years. So, it's a blessing and a curse because it drives you crazy when you're with your kids 24/7, and you're happy when they go to school. And but when you look back at it, it's like time you'll never get back. So you're like, damn, I want to hold the little 2-year-old again, you know, like that. So yeah, no regrets. I just met. I don't know how many of you guys know PK Gulati, the angel investor. I met him in 2011 first, when he was trying to bring me in with, into his incubator or something. But I said no back then because again I didn't know anything about startups. So I actually met him before I came here. I just sent him a message, and he was telling me, if you had joined me in 2011, you have added another 0 to your exit. And I'm like, well. But yeah, no regrets at all. It's just, yeah.
So what's the life like for you now?
Can you hear me? Yeah, super. Thank you, Mashfique. Very impressive story. Especially thank you for like spices that you're keeping into your speech and the details of all the process. It was amazing. My question is about like pricing strategy. How was it? Because the most hard thing to find the balance, right? So what were criteria that you were standing at while discussing the price, and what were the price strategy from buyer side? Thank you.
So I cannot reveal too much because I think I signed an NDA. What I can say is that I started off with several times my gross revenue, and I think they just based their negotiations of my price. You know, we started at half of that, and then we met in the middle. But I am fine with it because similar businesses to mine in the UK sold for 0.6x of their revenue. And that's because they raised more money than they're worth. So that was a big mistake. Plus, they were heavily dependent on YouTube and Facebook videos and social posts, while we kept control of our own platform. So that was a big difference. And other than that, it's pretty much arbitrary. It's just what you can negotiate. And also, I agreed to go at a price which was 25% less than what I asked. It was because I figured I could just make that, I take the whole cash and I could make that 25% up by myself within the next 2 years anyway, so somehow.
Yes, one quick question. Mashfique, a lot of my fellow founders friends are here, so I know you get a lot of pitches every day. Right? What is your checklist, red flags? You know, buy in when you see a pitch or when somebody pitches you. What makes you to take decisions fast?
Why would I tell you that? These are secrets. If I reveal everything, then people will start acting a certain way. But the main thing is how genuine they are, and they're genuine about what could go wrong, things like that. And as well as a lot of it comes down to the valuation cap. So in my earlier investments, I didn't really understand. I was just following other investors who were in the same round. But I I eventually realized that all the other investors are dumbasses as well. So I came up with my own tiers of what the valuation should be based on revenue and potential, things like that.
I wanted to ask which 911 are you going to buy? Is it going to be like the base model now, or is it going to be the
Base. Yeah, I test cars, right? So a base model is already more than enough for the streets of Dubai. Back in the day, I used to go to the empty parking lots of Global Village and do stunts over there. So, but you cannot do that anymore. So there is no real point to buying anything faster. I hope you're done.
Thank you so much, all. Again, are you going to do the debate? Usually we have a debate with Adil. He's an expert on that, so.
I just, because it's been 2 long sessions by great 2 speakers, I just want to say thank you to all, especially the speakers, Mr. Mashfique and Mr. Malachi, sharing us about your insights, and I hope the community has taken advantage of these insights and take notes of it. We will definitely be coming up with a debate soon, but I think today has been just too much of it. Let's do networking, and I think you guys have a lot to talk about with the speakers as well. Thank you again for your time, and yeah, let's be
Thank you so much all for coming, and now we will all do networking outside, and after that, sometimes people like to go out to another place. We will share in the group, if that's the case. If you're not in the group yet, please let me know, or also go to our Instagram or our LinkedIn where you can follow us and also see when the next event will be and what it will be about. Thank you. Have a nice day.